All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our Phonics Screening Check webinar. I'm Mia, and I'm the training coordinator and team leader here at Twinkl Phonics. And as Matt said, I've got Simon here with me today. Simon?
Hello, yes, I'm Simon. So I'm the product owner for Twinkl Phonics. So I work closely with Mia, making sure that all of our training resources are all as fabulous as they can be, along with all of our phonics resources on site.
Fab. So today we're going to be starting by looking a little bit about the Phonics Screening Check and what that is. For those of you who haven't done the Phonics Screening Check before, but for those of you who have, there might be a little bit of information there that you didn't know before already. So we're going to have a brief look at that, about what it is. Then we're going to be looking at how Twinkl Phonics can help you to prepare and what resources are available from Twinkl Phonics, as well as some top tips from our team. And as Matt said earlier, we do have time for questions at the end too. So if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll answer them either as we're going along or at the end. So the Phonics Screening Check, or the Phonics Screening Test, it is an informal test. It's usually taken by Year 1 pupils. It tests them on their ability to read and decode a series of 40 words. Now it's usually taken in June, but this year that's slightly different because, it's usually taken earlier in May, but it's been postponed because of the coronation this year. So this year it's week commencing the 12th of June. And it's described by the DFE as a short, light touch assessment. It should take less than 10 minutes for you to complete with each child. And it often takes place on a one-to-one basis between a pupil and their teacher. So the Phonics Screening Check should be scored by the teacher as they work through the check, and more guidance about this can be found on the Phonics Screening Check assessment framework. The pass mark for the check is announced after the test period, but it's previously been 32 out of 40. So the purpose of the Phonics Screening Check is to confirm that all children have learned phonic decoding to an age-appropriate standard. It's there to identify children who haven't learnt to decode using phonics by the end of Year 1. And children who haven't reached this level should receive some extra support from their school to ensure that they can improve their decoding skills. And then they'll have the opportunity to retake that Phonics Screening Check later on, maybe in Year 2. And by promoting the teaching of systematic synthetic phonics and identifying children who need extra support, it's hoped that introducing the Phonics Screening Check leads to the increasing number of children able to read competently by the time they reach the end of Key Stages 1 and 2. Now, the introduction of the Phonics Screening Check, sorry, Simon, just skip back one for me. Sorry, thank you. I took a big break then, didn't I? The introduction of this Phonics Screening Check in no way underestimates the importance of teaching wider reading skills. All children should be taught to read for meaning and pleasure throughout primary school. The evidence shows that phonics teaching is most effective when taught as part of a language-rich curriculum. And so we shouldn't underestimate the power of a language-rich environment. Introducing a check of phonic decoding in Year 1 doesn't mean that teachers should delay teaching children the wider literacy and comprehension skills. Here at Twinkl, our priority is helping you to help children to read, but we understand that you also need to get them through the check. We hear you, we've been there, and we know that this is something that you need to do. Next slide, Simon. Thanks. There will be some practice words for children before the check begins. These are to help familiarise children with the activity and provide some less difficult words to ease children into the Phonics Screening Check. These will have the usual structure of vowel consonant or vowel consonant consonant, so words like in, like what's on the screen. And the practice words there aren't scored. It is literally a practice. So the Phonics Screening Check is constructed of 20 real words and 20 pseudo words, 20 alien words or nonsense words. Now, these pseudo words provide the purest assessment of phonic decoding because they will be new to all children. So there'll be no unintended bias based on that visual memory of words or vocabulary knowledge. The real words will include less common words, which children are less likely to have read previously. And this is so that the majority of children will need to decode using their phonics rather than relying on their sight memory as they have done before. Now, as you can see on the screen, the pseudo words are presented with a picture prompt and of an imaginary creature, and the children are asked to name that creature. So this creature is called Ott. These visuals make it clear to children that they're reading a pseudo word and it should not make sense within their range of vocabulary. It is necessary to start with the easier words in section 1 to make the phonics screening check accessible and to provide some information to teachers if they're unable to decode relatively simple words. However, the words at the end of the phonics screening check are around the level of difficulty we expect children to reach by the end of year 1. These provide more information about whether children are working above or below that expected standard. Next slide, please. Thanks. Now, there's plenty of government guidance on administering the phonics screening check. We are going to be sharing links with you afterwards to these documents after the webinar for quick reference. But one really useful resource, if you haven't seen it already, is this video of children reading some phonetically decodable words and whether these words would be considered correct or not with how the children decode them. But again, we'll send you a link to this video later, so it's not something that we're going to watch now.
This video is...
So section 1 of the check contains words with these grapheme phoneme correspondences. The inclusion of a particular grapheme isn't necessarily in proportion to its frequency in words that are appropriate for children at the end of year 1. So what I mean by that is that the letter T doesn't necessarily appear more frequently than the letter X, even though it's more common in words that children in year 1 might experience. The assessment framework also explains how these words are made up of consonants and vowels and the level of difficulty in words, if you'd like to know a little bit more. And it breaks down the words, the 20 words from section 1 in a little bit more detail. Section 2, this section contains words using the grapheme phoneme correspondences from section 1 plus these additional GPCs as well. And again, the assessment framework will explain how these words are made up of consonants and vowels and level of difficulty. So if you do want to know more, then have a look at that assessment framework and it will break down these 20 words from section 2 in more detail. But that's it from me. I will pass you over to Simon, who's going to talk to you about how Twinkl can help.
Thanks, Mia. Yeah, so we'll have a little bit of a chat about what we have on site and the ways that we think this can help you with your preparation. So if you've been using Twinkl for phonics resources before, you may know that there's a lot on site and there are actually 2 quite different sets of resources on Twinkl. So you'll find what we call Twinkl Classic Phonics resources. So our Classic Phonics resources have been there from the start from when Twinkl was started, which is over 10 years ago. We started by creating phonics resources for teachers to use alongside letters and sounds. So those resources were set up to support with phonics teaching through phases 1 to 6. And they could be used to complement any scheme that was being used, any kind of planning or provision, whatever the setting. So you can spot those quite easily from the use of the words phase, year or key stage in the resource. That's usually a good indicator that you're looking at a classic phonics resource. Now, a few years later, in about 2017, we started creating Twinkl Phonics, which is a completely inclusive scheme. So Twinkl Phonics is a whole school DFE approved systematic synthetic phonics program. So it's been designed to be used from nursery through to year 2 and even into key stage 2 as well for children that need further support. And it includes everything that you need to plan and deliver pacey, engaging lessons from whole school planning overviews, weekly planning documents, daily session packs with PowerPoints, follow-up activities and games, stories, everything that you might need. So we actually believe that everything you need to prepare your class for the year 1 phonics screening check is covered by following our progression and planning. But we also recognise that not all children learn at the same way, not all children learn at the same pace, and there will be children that need an extra push, extra practice, and that won't necessarily be ready as soon as other children when the statutory check comes around. So we've tried to include everything So we've tried to include extra resources. We've built additional resources in alongside the scheme to help you prepare specifically for the phonics screening check, covering things, for example, covering the pseudo words. So pseudo words are not part of the main lessons in the Twinkl Phonics scheme, as the program aims to develop your children's confidence in reading and writing skills and a lifelong love of reading. However, we do recognise, again, that you need to prepare the children for this. And when they encounter them in the phonics screening check, we don't want it to be a complete shock to the system. So we have created resources to help support you with teaching reading pseudo words as part of your preparation for the check. So the best way to find our scheme resources is by going straight to our landing page, which is at twinkl.co.uk/phonics. So if you use our sort of search bar, you quite often end up with a mixture of Twinkl Phonics and classic phonics resources. But if you go straight to twinkl.co.uk/phonics, you'll end up on our landing page, and that has a series of filters and sections to help you find exactly what you're looking for. Just to make a point as well, so with the pseudo words, we like to mention this as well. We can't predict or control what words are going to end up taking on slang or colloquial meanings. So while we do our best to provide phonetically regular nonsense words to practice that are not in use as colloquial or slang language, we do recommend that any student research into real and nonsense words is done with a reliable dictionary, because we can't be held responsible for slang definitions that might be discovered when searching the internet and any liability associated with that. That's my quick disclaimer out of the way. So when you have a look at the Twinkl Phonics page, you'll see that the top of the page is dedicated to the lesson packs, the planning, and all of the core resources for the regular lesson packs. As you scroll further down, you find our supporting resources, and this is where we've tucked all of our phonics screening check prep resources. So if you use the filters to go to level 5, and then there's a specific tick box that says phonics screening check, it will show you all the resources that we've prepared for your phonics screening check prep. Now, they're not only level 5 resources. We've created screening check resources to cover level 2, 3, 4, 5. But we've put them all under the level 5 filters because we appreciate that that's mostly where you'll be looking if you're teaching in year 1 at that time. So these resources do link to the main scheme through Kit and Sam. So if your children have been using the Phonics, Twinkl Phonics scheme, they'll recognise some of the characters. They recognise Jay, the alien, who's Kit and Sam's extraterrestrial friend. And the activities, PowerPoints and games cover the real and nonsense words that may appear in the screening check to make preparation fun, and so it kind of appears, so it feels like part of the scheme, even though it's not built into the daily lessons. We've also planned in complete coverage of the GPCs needed for the phonics screening by level 5, week 21, which we estimate to have been covered by the time the screening check comes around. So compared to phase 5 in letters and sounds, Twinkl Phonics provides a bit more opportunity and more time for learners to consolidate those taught GPCs ahead of the screening check. So we want children to build a solid foundation of their phonics skills through a steady and well-paced throughout Key Stage 1, so that they can enter Key Stage 2 as confident readers and spellers, alongside having to pass a statutory check that we realise is something that you have to get them through as well. So just to have a look at some of the resources that you'll find in that section on site. So first of all, we think this is a really handy place for you to start. So we've created a teacher guidance document, which enables you to find answers to all of the fundamental questions that you and other staff may have about the phonics screening check. So it looks at the structure of the check, it looks at the type of words that you're going to come across, some advice on how to administer the check and how to adapt the check to meet the needs of specific learners in your setting. It also includes some information on scoring, recording and reporting on the results. Similarly, I'm sure you'll be keen to involve parents and inform them of the process as well, not just parents, carers, families, all those other stakeholders at home who are vitally important for helping your children succeed. So we've created a specific guide for parents and carers as well. So that involves a lot of the same information about what's in the check, what happens during the screening, and how parents can help with that process as well. We've also created a PowerPoint, so if you wanted to hold some kind of information evening or perhaps an event to communicate that information with parents, there's a PowerPoint that you can use as a kind of a starting point. And along with all of our PowerPoints, once you download that, it's completely editable. So if you wanted to adapt it to make sure that it fits with your setting, add in any details that are specific to your school or to your learning, you can adapt the PowerPoint, you can edit it, you can make it work for the way that you need it to. So then once you've kind of started to prepare, one of the most important parts in starting your preparation is assessment and knowing where your children are currently working and identifying what support they might need. So we've created assessment, action plans and trackers to kind of get you started. So you'll find assessment packs for every level of Twinkl Phonics. Those include flashcards, they include all of the results. In fact, if you download the assessment pack, it has everything you need to assess your entire class on that level. Teacher guidance, it includes teacher the workbooks for children to write down the words, and the flashcards for children, for their teachers to read to them, or for children to recognize the GPCs and words. So everything you need to assess at that level. Then we also have a whole scheme assessment in case you need to baseline children or children come new to your setting, or if you're new to the scheme. This kind of goes through the entire Twinkl Phonics scheme to assess children in your school as you begin using our program. Then we also have a lowest 20% action plan template and phonics action plan template. So these are handy resources that are great for identifying actions and interventions, particularly how you're going to support the lowest 20% of pupils in your school for phonics. So this is a really, really important one, something that senior leaders might want to see, that Ofsted might ask about, that governors might want to see. It can be a really helpful document for helping you prepare to report on those things when you're asked to show that evidence of what you're up to. And also one of our newer resources, our Twinkl Phonics Intervention Tracker. It's a great resource for phonics subject leaders in particular. It's an editable spreadsheet that allows you to track and monitor which pupils are receiving which interventions in your school, how often, by whom, and there's a page for each year group so you can track pupils throughout the entire school with their phonics learning. So once you've completed your assessments and you know what resources you need, you're going to find a range of different things to help support your phonics screening check practice. So as I mentioned, the screening check is going to be constructed of 20 real words and 20 pseudo words, or also known as alien words. So alien words, like I've mentioned, are not embedded within the Twinkl Phonics lessons. So we have provided a wealth of resources, including those alien or nonsense words, which link to the main scheme, as I mentioned, through Jay the Alien, who you can see here in the PowerPoint. These can be found in those support and resources section, and you can add them to your lessons as and when you feel your children need them or they're ready. So these include flashcards and flashcard PowerPoints. So whether you wanted to recap the learnt GPCs and practice blending and decoding in unfamiliar words. So you could use the flashcards. They look very similar to the format and the style of the flashcard of the words that you'll see in the actual screening check. So you might want to use the flashcards with a smaller group. You might want to use the PowerPoints with a larger group or for your whole class. And then you can move on to various group games to practice further. And we'll look a little bit more at those in just a moment. So another resource that we think is really useful is our interactive display resources. So we've created interactive display packs containing real and alien words for children to read and sort. So this set includes real and pseudo words made up of level 3 sounds for children to decode and blend to read. There's one for each level as well. So if you wanted to have different levels on different boards or different areas of the classroom, you can use whichever level that you think you need in different spaces. So these provide daily or weekly practice of using phonics to read, and just provide great daily preparation and practice for the screening check. They also include adult guidance so that you know how to kind of set them up and how the display is designed to work. But essentially you create an interactive display that the children can use to practice. So for example, in this one, they would stick the words on or under the correct display poster. So if they find an alien word, they'd put it under the aliens. And if they find a real word, they put it under Kit and Sam, and it helps them just to recognize when they're looking at real words, when they're looking at an alien word, and give them that practice at decoding those different kinds of words, not being freaked out by a word that they've never seen before, but to learn that is, unfortunately, that is part of the check, and it's something they'll need to be good at to do the best that they can in the check. So then beyond the interactive displays, we've also created independent activity packs. So these packs can be used for your children to go and prepare independently for the check. So while you've got some time in the classroom that your children can go and work on those things, hopefully everything that these packs are designed to be worked on independently. So you can set the children off and they can go and work on that while you're working with a different group. So they include activities like word sorting, decoding and spelling tasks, other phonics screening practice activities, Yeah, so this, for example, this level 4 pack includes an I Spy. It includes Kit and Sam's Kit Check, where they cut out the words and match them up to the children. So it's kind of an independent matching activity, spot the words activity, those kinds of things. So for each level, there's different independent activity packs to keep them busy for the weeks leading up to the check. Then, as well as independent practice activities to work on in class, we've also created home learning activity packs. And again, these have been created for every level of Twinkl Phonics. So these can support home learning around the screening check in the lead up and practice. So you can send these activities home for children to work on with their parents and carers as needed, as you think is appropriate for the children in your setting. So here you can see a level 5 example that I've pulled up here with a range of activities, and these all come with adult instructions where needed. So this, you could download one pack and it can kind of a range of activities to last for a number of days or number of weeks in the lead up to the screening check. So this pack, for example, includes a Find the Planets game, includes 4 in a row, Jay's Real and Alien Word Snap, level 5 home learning word list, make the alien words, the phonics activity mats, various different activities that children, so you can choose these to suit the different children and the levels that they need to practice at home. Now, we also have some phonics screening resources in Twinkl Go. So Twinkl Go includes a load of resources that are interactive, paperless, and they can all be accessed online. So these are accessed through a browser window. So you don't actually need to download any apps or special software to access them. And they could be set for remote learning, or they can be used in the classroom if you've got devices, if you're able to use tablets or laptops in the classroom. They also work on things like smartphones. So if you set those for children to complete with the help of a parent, they can access those and have a go at doing those interactively online. So they're perfect to use in class if you've got access to those devices in class. But likewise, yeah, you can also set them as a home learning activity as well. The great thing about these as well is that all you need is an internet connection. They use a very small bandwidth, so we find that people are able to use them on all kinds of devices to practice at home. One of the best things about the Twinkl Go resources as well is that you can assign them using the Twinkl Planner tool. So set up on the Twinkl website, you'll find the Planner tool lets you assign resources to children, and then you can give them a code that they can go home and actually use those resources at home, kind of based off of the teacher's subscription. So they don't need a Twinkl subscription. They can be given that resource to go and complete at home and practice it in their own time. So yeah, you'll find all the Twinkl Go resources there. You can see this one in action. You'll find those in that same level 5 support and resources section under the phonics screening check filter. So as well as those, we've also got group games that you can practice the sounds in your class. So if you've set up some targeted groups to work on specific sounds, you might have identified through your assessment that there are some children that need to practice their level 2 sounds, some children need to practice level 3 sounds. So you can set up targeted games to work on with those groups. So these packs include things like bingo games, word sorting activities, board games, other fun phonics screening activities. There are group games for each level of Twinkl Phonics again, and they're designed to be led by an adult with a small group of children. So a bit more appropriate for an intervention group, for a small group that perhaps needs an adult to sort of get them started. But yeah, so while you might have some groups working with independent activity packs, these would work for a group supervised by an adult. So this one, for example, this level 2 pack, level 2 pack includes Jay's Space Race. It includes a bingo and lotto game and a real and alien word sorting activity. But you'll find different activities in each level pack. So another kind of resource that we have is our physically active phonics. So through our many years of experiences in the classroom, we know that children love learning in a variety of different ways. So Twinkl Phonics includes physically active phonics activities to ensure all children can stay engaged, enthused and focused on their learning. So these are designed to appeal to children who really need that kinesthetic type of learning to help support them. So physically active phonics activities appear as quick get up and go activities that you can use during your whole class teaching, but you can also use them as standalone activities in games. So you might want to, they might be something you could use as part of a sort of PE lesson or something, or it might be that you have time and space in your phonics lesson to get up and spend a few minutes doing a physically active portion of the lesson, depending on your learners, depending on their needs and what you feel is appropriate for your class. So level 1 is a very naturally active level. So we've made these from level 2 to level 6 to make them more active as well. The plans and resources aim to get children up and moving while they practice applying their phonics knowledge in fun and physical ways. So if you look out for this symbol showing Kit, Sam and Ben on the move, you'll spot it on some of our PowerPoints, and you'll spot it on the physically active phonics resources themselves as alternatives to some of the practice activities within the lessons. Fabulous. One last thing just to flag is that we have a range of different intervention packs. So alongside your actual practice for the phonics screening check, there are interventions designed for all different levels of Twinkl Phonics. So our Explorasaurus intervention program, they're optional adult-led multisensory follow-up activities. So they aim to promote a quality-first teaching approach, which aims to enable all children to keep up with the pace of GPC teaching coverage. So they're sort of designed for children that are in their level 2 learning, in level 2, level 3 learning, but perhaps they've missed out on some of that level 1 skills, the listening skills, the sound discernment skills. And so they are kind of, they're designed as an intervention to help those children pick up their GPC learning through some of that play, through some of that continuous provision. There's also group and one-to-one same-day interventions for Key Stage 1 children. So group lessons are designed as a sort of a catch-up opportunity. So you might put children together and get them together to practice some gaps in their phonics learning. So it's aimed at children who benefit from that little bit of revisiting and relearning, and they're set out as complete step-by-step scripted lessons. So an adult can lead that session just by downloading the pack and using everything that everything is there in the pack for you. And there's also one-to-one same-day intervention. So if you've got children that need kind of that daily work with an adult to help them to keep up with the rest of the class, there's one-to-one same-day interventions. Again, those are scripted and designed to help children that you might be worried could get a little bit behind if they don't have that little bit of extra alongside the main teaching. So one other thing that you might want to do with your class as you're kind of preparing for the phonics screening as it gets closer is you may want to do mock screening checks. So this can help the children and of course the adults to be familiar with the format and the process before you actually administer the check. So the resources have been included, have been designed to match the documents used in the statutory test as closely as possible. So it kind of helps you and your staff and your children to prepare for what the screening will look like, how it will feel, give them an idea of what to expect, so that they're kind of just to help you, if you know your children will feel calmer and more ready, if they've had a bit of practice, you can find mock screening checks as well, just to help you prepare. Again, all in that section towards the bottom of the Twinkl landing page, the Twinkl Phonics landing page, under level 5 phonics screening check. Whew. I'm going to pause to get a little sip of water and hand back over to Mia for just a few minutes. We're going to talk about some of our top tips.
That's fine. You get some water, Simon. So a couple of our top tips that we've got from the phonics team to yourselves is to think strategically about how you organize this day. So the screening doesn't need to be completed all in one chunk. Children can have a break in between the two sections. So if you've got a child who you want to do section 1 and then have a break and do section 2, then that's perfectly okay. I know that in some schools that I've worked in before and some of the other teams have worked in before, you know, we give them juice and a biscuit halfway through. You know, it makes it slightly more enjoyable. Who doesn't want a biscuit? Start with some of your more confident pupils first, while your children who are just on the cusp have a little bit of a warm-up activity with the TA, and then those children can go into testing a little bit later on after a phonics warm-up. So there's lots of different things that you can do, and think strategically about how you organise that day. The second point is Sound buttons. We really recommend using sound buttons if a pupil uses those to help them decode words as part of their normal classroom practice. They can actually use them during the check. This comes from the government guidance. You must give them a clean copy of the check so that they can mark the sound buttons themselves against the graphemes. So you mustn't mark the sound buttons on, the child must do it themselves. But if that is something that aids them in the phonics screening check, then they can add sound buttons themselves. The third top tip that we've got here is that all of the, The third top tip is that you can make modifications to make it more accessible or to make some changes. So for example, all the letters in the phonics screening check are going to be lowercase. The standard version of the phonics screening check is 4 words per page in a list. So if you wanted to change the font size, or change the format of it and put more words to a page to enable it to be more accessible for children with special educational needs, then that is something that you can do. There is a section on the assessment and reporting arrangement that can give you more information on that, about what you can and what you can't do. I was just thinking, Simon, that we mentioned the website and the planner tool. We've got some time, so we could do a screen share and show exactly where to find those things live.
Yeah, happy to do that.
You're currently sharing your screen, but I'm happy to swap if you want.
Okay, I will unshare and you can jump on.
Oh, thanks. Let me find my tab now. There we go. There we go. Can everyone see that one? Great. So this is the phonics landing page. So all I did was type in www.twinkl.co.uk/phonics. And this is the landing page for the scheme. So as Simon mentioned earlier, we know that this is Twinkl Phonics, the scheme, rather than classic phonics, because we have things like the approved label here, the DFE approved little flag. We've got the phonics family, who you can see here. And so this banner is a really big indicator for us that we're on the scheme rather than the classic resources. You have the weekly lesson packs here at the top with quick download buttons. And then the phonics screening check resources that we've been looking at, and a lot of them that we've highlighted today. As Simon said earlier, we do have them for all of the levels, but if you go to level 5 and then go to the filter on the left-hand side where it says phonics screening check, then this is where you can see those different resources. So you can see all of the phonics screening check resources here, and there are a few pages of them. So this is where we're looking for those phonics screening check resources, and some of those there that we've mentioned today are on there, including the teacher guidance and the guide for parents, carers and families, the intervention tracker. All the resources that we've talked about and more today are all on there. Now you can share these with others. You can share them with other members of staff if you wanted to point them towards another member of staff, or if you wanted to share them with parents and carers and families at home, then you can do that as well. So for example, this is the Twinkl Go game that we were having a look at earlier. So if I click into that, we can share this with others by using the planner tool. So if you're logged in, you will have this little planner tool on the side. And I'm going to say this now because there was a glitch yesterday, so it will be working now. I'm sure it will. All you have to do is click on the preview here, drag it over and pop it in. You can't quite, my screen's gone a little bit funny there, I think. But all I'm doing is clicking and dragging that preview. If that isn't working, have a look. We all know what technology's like. We go level 5, phonics screening check. You can click and drag from here as well. So you can click and drag and pop them in. So all you have to do, and I know you can't see, you can sort of see my mouse moving, can't you? But you can't see it drag over. There is also an extra button on here where we can add to lessons. So there's a button as well on here where you can add it to your lessons. So have a look at that planner tool. There is there's a video here which says how to use, which shows you how to use it. There's also a video on our YouTube channel, but it's really useful so that you can share resources with other people as well, just by giving them a code. So if I were to click here, you can see some folders that I've created before. I've created some blending folders, some segmenting folders. You can have up to 10 files in each folder. And if you just click share here, share this lesson and save, it publishes it. And then it gives you a code that you can use. So if anyone goes onto Twinkl Go and uses this code, ME3867, so I'm just going to Twinkl Go. This is Twinkl Go. And if you pop that code in, and this is what anyone can do, you don't have to have a login. This is technically the login for that folder. Oh, it wants me to sign out. Never mind. You will be able to access that. It just goes to show that when you try and show other people.
Do you want me to try logging in on mine? Would it make a difference?
If you don't mind, I've got that code for you.
Give me 2 seconds. Let's open up another window.
All right. Thing when you need to be logged in on one but not logged in on another. Oh, that's a really interesting comment there that we've got in the chat about the code sometimes not allowing learners to access. Have you spotted a pattern in that about when it doesn't let them access it at all? If there's any more information you can give us about that, that'd be really helpful so that we can help. I have managed to get onto that, Simon, unless you have.
Okay, you go ahead if you've got it now. Yep.
I just signed out. It didn't take too long. So using that code, I get to a page like this, and this is the folder that I made with lots of blending activities. And so now I can just download those or launch the games, even if I don't have a Twinkl account myself. I'll be able to download those resources or launch a game. So that planner tool is really useful.
Fab, thank you, Mia.
It's all right.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. What I'll do is if I hop back over to the presentation, we've got a little bit of time for questions. And then particularly what I might do as well is, I'll show you on the last slide. There are some places that you can go for some support with Twinkl. So we can direct you towards those. Just wait for my screen to show again. There we go. Can everybody see my screen again? Fab. So at this point, if anyone has any questions, we've got a bit of time for answering questions, but also these are some of the avenues that you can go for support through Twinkl. So Twinkl Cares is available 24/7. We have a help team that pass on questions to the relevant team. So if you have a question with Twinkl Phonics that you want to reach us with, if you contact Twinkl Cares, they'll pass that on to me or the team, and we can look at that in more detail. You can also contact the schools team during school hours. Or you can reach us on our Facebook groups or our phonics.training email address as well. So you can send your questions. You can also send questions to Twinkl CPD for help as well. So if you've got that specific question about the Twinkl Planner tool, if you're struggling with that, I could suggest that you go through Twinkl Cares and we can have a look in a bit more detail. Oh, thanks, Matt's already jumped on that one for me. So we've got just a couple more minutes. If anyone had any other questions you wanted to ask while we're here, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Otherwise, like I say, thank you so much for sharing this time with us and for showing an interest in our phonics resources that we work hard on. It's lovely to see so many people, and do let us know if there's any way that we can support you. Feel free to either raise a hand or put your questions into the chat window at the side.